the whole idea of this video is to master the concept of a polynomial derivation, right? So at the end of the video you should master how to deal with a polynomial derivation. But the key here is that you have to know the basis. What I mean by the basis here is that, let's say you have $8 and then you want to share that among, maybe let's say two people, or maybe how many $2 can you get out of this one? $8. This is so obvious. Someone can say, well, 4 straight for it. What will happen if you have a very large number? Is that okay? So, but this is just the simple understanding. So this should be your stepping stone for you to master the idea of a polynomial derivation. Is that okay? All right, so if you have the answer to be 4 here, so this 4 here is going to multiply the 2 here, so it gives me what? 8. Is that okay? So it gives me 8. So if you have the 8, then you are going to subtract these two people. So 8 minus 8 will give you more 0. Is that okay? So this is what we are calling what? A long division. Is that right? So this is the long division. So I'm calling this one what? A stage 1. This is very simple and obvious. But what will happen if you have something like, let's say, can that be 15 being divided by something like 2, right? So let's use 2 here. So what it means here is that how many times can you have the 2 out of the 15? Is that okay? So you want to share this thing among two people. Exactly. Right, so of course this one cannot go, we cannot have the 2 out of the 1, so you have to go for everything here. So 15 here, meaning that if you pick the 2, how many 2s can we get out of the 15? How many $2 can we get out of the $15? So that should be 7, right? So that should be 7. So 7 multiplied by this one should give me the answer to be what? A 14. Is that okay? So 14 here, you do your subtraction, so you are going to have 1. So if you are going to deal with a decimal, so that's also where you bring in what? The point here, right? So you have to bring in the point and then you add 0 to that one, so that gives me 10. So 7.5, right? So 7.5. Yeah, of course that was so obvious, so everybody will get 7.5, right? $7, so 50 cents. So, okay, something of that nature. So this is the basic that you must understand before you should know the concept of what? Polynomial division. So let's get to the stage 2. So in getting to the stage 2 here, so what I'm calling the stage 2 here, before you have to the final stage is that if you have something like x exponent 3b divided by x squared, right? So what we are trying to say here is that how many of these things can we get out of this? This is something obvious. So we are taking the 2 out of the 3. Is that okay? Because these two people are the same. They don't have any number attached to that. Right, so we are taking this 2 out of the 3. How many times? We are just going to left with what? Just one of them. If I take the 2 out of the 3, you are going to left with just one, right? So that's the stage. In case of what? 3x squared being divided by let's say, should that be x squared here, something of this nature? What do you think would be the answer to this one, right? Okay, so make sure that you give me the answer to this thing in the comment section below, right? Now let's dive into the final part of or the main purpose of this video here. So those are some of the keywords that you have to understand before you can slowly proceed from what a polynomial derivation, right? So all that we are going to do here is that under this condition, solely for this example, you are going to deal with the variables. So what I mean by the variables are the most important thing here. So we are dealing with this first variable, right? So this first variable and this one is okay. Even though here we are going to divide all this polynomial, which is the s exponent 3 minus 3x squared plus 3x and minus 1 being divided by x minus 1. Is that okay? Be divided by x minus 1. All that we are going to do here is that we are going to pick this first guy here. So how many people are here? 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 people. So you pick the first guy, which is the x exponent 3, being divided by the x here, not x minus 1, right? So the x exponent 3 here, that is the idea, the key word here, right? So you are going to use this thing divided by just this variable. So that is why I said earlier on that you must master this thing, right? So you must master this idea. If you have any difficulties, so let me share. Read with me in the comment section below, right? Okay. Now here is that. So here, if I break this thing, that it means that I have a x exponent 3b divided by x, right? So that is the keyword. So meaning that this x here being divided by the x exponent 3, we are going to have x squared as well, our answer, right? So x squared here to be the answer. So if I take this s squared, what am I going to do? I have to take everything here, multiply by everything here. Is that okay? So we are going to take the s squared and multiply by the x minus 1. So this x squared minus multiply by the x. So here we are going to have s exponent 3, right? So anytime you multiply, we are adding 1 to that. That's the law of indices. If you are okay with that, let me get to you. But the key here is that if I multiply this one by this one, we are having 1 to that, right? So I have x exponent 3 here. So this x squared here multiplied by the negative 1, right? So you have anything that you have here must be multiply everything that is here. If there are 3 terms, make sure that you are multiplying your answer here by all of them. Okay, so this one multiplied by that, we are going to have negative x squared. So what are we going to do next? So just like in the basis, we are going to divide. Oh, sorry, we are going to subtract everything here, right? So we are subtracting everything in. Is that okay? So subtracting everything here. So that is for negative 1 minus 0. There's nothing here, right? So let me assume that there are 0, 0. So right. So negative 1 minus 0, that should be a negative 1. This one minus 0, that should be a positive 3x here. So here is the point. So you have a negative 3x squared minus what x squared. So make sure that you arrange the partner to partner. So what I mean by the partners here is that you have x squared under the x squared here, and then x exponent 3 under the x exponent 3, right? So don't be confused here. So that's why you need to subscribe to the channel to come across all these tricks, right? So here we are having x exponent s, so maybe negative 3x squared, and then minus what x squared. So this is what you're having. You have a negative 3x square minus, and then minus of x squared. So here tends to be a positive. So you have a negative 3x squared plus of x squared, which is exactly negative 2x square, right? So if according to algebraic expression, so if you are not okay with that technical term, don't be confused over it. So here, if you have the x squared and then the x squared, just deal with what the numbers, right? So since the variables are the same, we are dealing with what they are friends that are attached to them. So here you have a negative 3, and then here is 1. So negative 3 plus 1, that should be equal to the 2 here, right? Okay, so here we are going to have our answer to be negative 2x squared. So of course, here if you subtract the s exponent 3 minus s exponent 3, that should be equal to 0. So the answer that we got after subtracting these two people is negative 2x squared plus s plus 3s, and then minus 1. Then we continue from this point. Now the next line is just like in the first part here. So we are going to take this thing being divided by the x minus. So of course you have to deal with the negative 2x squared, and then how many times this one can go into this, right? So how many times this x here can go into the negative x squared, just like the first part. Is that okay? But here we are having a negative 2x squared here, and then here we are just having the x. So here we are going to have your answer to be negative 2x. So look at something. If you have a negative, you see this tells you that whatever the power of the x here is, it decreases by 1, right? So that is the trend here. So in the first part here, you have the x exponent 3, right? So that the answer here decreases by 1, right? So here too, if you have the x square here, it must go down by 1, right? So meaning that we have this x here out of that. So we can get a negative 2x out of this negative 2x squared. So you use the answer to multiply everything, and then you have your answer down. Okay. Now, after subtracting, you should have your answer that looks so similar to mine. That's the x minus 1 here. So how many times this x minus 1 can go into this x minus 1? So the key here is that if you have something like a $5 here being divided to by 5 people, each person will just take what, $1, right? So that's so obvious. So if you subtract this thing, I have the answer to be x minus 1. So how many times this x minus 1 can go into x minus 1? The answer here is just what, 1. right? So positive 1. So you use your answer to multiply everything here. So after multiplying, you are going to have x minus 1 at the end here. So you subtract. If you subtract it 2 here, you should have your answer to be 0, right? So because this one minus this one will give you more 0. So the answer to this quadratic, the answer to this polynomial, which is a cubic polynomial, but one has a degree of 3, right? So this is the degree of 3 here is what the quadratic. So this is what we call a quadratic. So meaning that the degree of this one, which is 3, the answer to the degree of 3 polynomial is what a quadratic. Well, the degree tends to be what, to be 2. So that is just something that you have to look up. So for if you are tackling some questions like this, right? So pay a close attention to this type of a problem solving. That's why you need to subscribe to the channel for more content. If you have any issue, let's hear from you in the comment section, right? Okay.